From the Gen A perspective, Australia really should be thinking about its engagement with China from how to better engage young professionals in terms of their personal growth narrative, in my opinion. If we think about it from a career development, professional development perspective, really what's realistic is companies recognizing the value of Asia capable and China capable individuals. We see exchanges at the university level between scholars and between academics as well. Why can't that happen across industries and across firms between countries, between Australia and China? The biggest one is thinking from the perspective of productivity and talent is to build a future workforce of Asia capable, China capable, and Asia literate Australian talent. When we talk about this tension for Australia's desire for better relations and that balance between some of the other aspects, whether we like it or not, or whether we'd like to admit to it, Australia and China's relationship is ultimately always going to be a political one. I think Australia's relationship with China would be at a better place if, as individual Australians, we understand why we have a strong connection to Asia and to China, and why we need to have a strong connection to Asia and China, and why it's relevant and why it's valuable for us and to them as well. A really big part, I think, is to differentiate the difference between Chinese, being Chinese, and China. And often that gets kind of very much confounded in media and in different types of narratives. So really, when I think about in the long term, if we get enough people who form their own views about what China is about, how it's relevant to them, it will naturally help us work towards a much stronger relationship that it's in our best interest. The biggest one is not to make it so political. I think we naturally, because it is political at so many levels, it often feels for young professionals that, in the context of Australia and China, it's a very us versus them game. If you choose one, if you decide to work for X, Y, it means that you are your A, B, and C. So to try and move away from that political narrative and make it a lot more about business, about opportunities, about value, whether that's commercial value or personal value, I think that makes it a lot easier for more young professionals to be engaging. The biggest one I see, having worked in both China and Australia, is all young professionals are curious and open-minded. They're at perspective in their career and their life that they have their own views. They are exploring to see who they are as a person and how they fit into this world, but at the same time, they haven't formed their views. Their views are still heavily shaped by others around them, by the experiences that they have, and by what they see and the people who they talk to. And that, from a perspective of future relationships with China, means that it's a lot more balanced. When we think about the long-term future, when I think about in the long term with China, I am optimistic. For us as Australians and young professionals in Australia, we do need to go into the relationship with our eyes wide open. But really, ultimately, at the people level, there are just so many similar values, especially for young professionals where we are at our stage in life.